The crimson waters of Mareth's primary ocean stretched endlessly beneath two amber suns, their light fracturing into prismatic cascades as it penetrated the alien sea. Dr. Islan Niven pressed her palm against the observation deck's reinforced polymer window, watching the dancing patterns of bioluminescence 30 meters below the surface of Research Station Thalassa. "Still can't believe we're actually here," murmured Dr. Chin Martinez, joining her at the viewport. Steam rose from his coffee mug, fogging the transparent aluminum briefly before the environmental systems cleared it away. Isla nodded, her reflection ghosting over the alien seascape. 3 months since humanity's first successful interstellar colony ship had reached Mareth, and she still felt the weight of impossibility pressing against her chest every morning. As the expedition's lead marine biologist, she'd spent the journey studying theoretical models of what they might find. Reality had exceeded every simulation. "The phosphorescent patterns are getting more complex," she observed, noting the intricate geometries of light weaving through the water column. Yesterday's recordings showed simple spirals and waves. Today, she gestured at the elaborate mandala of blue-green light pulsing beneath them. "That's almost like writing." Chin followed her gaze, adjusting his thick-rimmed glasses. "Communications array picked up subsonic pulses again last night. Highly structured, mathematical even. Whatever's down there, it's intelligent." A soft chime echoed through the station, followed by Commander Saravas's voice over the intercom. "All senior staff to the briefing room. Priority 1. Isla and Chin exchanged glances. Priority 1 meant contact protocols were in effect. The briefing room buzzed with nervous energy as the station's 27 senior personnel filed in. Commander Voss stood at the head of the conference table, her weathered face grave beneath short silver hair. Behind her, the main display showed sonar readings from the previous 12 hours. At 0347 station time, our deep sensors detected multiple large contacts rising from the abyssal zone. Voss began without preamble. "Analysis indicates artificial construction, possibly vessels of some kind. They've maintained position at 200 meters depth, directly beneath us for the past 6 hours." Dr. Sarah Kim, the team's xenobiologist, leaned forward. "Life signs. Affirmative. Whatever's piloting those constructs is very much alive." Voss gestured to the display, which shifted to show thermal imaging. Massive shapes, easily 100 meters long, hung motionless in the dark water. "They're not hiding from us. If anything, they seem to be waiting." "Waiting for what?" asked Chief Engineer Olson. Before Voss could respond, the station's emergency lighting flickered to amber. Through the briefing room's window, the ocean around them began to glow with an intensity that outshone Mareth's twin suns. Geometric patterns of light spiraled upward from the depths, coalescing into symbols that hung in the water like living hieroglyphs. "They're trying to communicate," Isla whispered. The patterns shifted, becoming more recognizable. Mathematical constants, atomic structures, star charts. Then, impossibly, the lights began forming simple pictographs, representations of the human form, of ships, of exchange. Dr. Kim was the first to understand. "They're proposing trade." The first face-to-face meeting between humans and the beings they would come to call the Nereidans took place in the station's main airlock, which had been flooded and pressurized to match the ocean's conditions. Isla floated in her environmental suit, watching through the transparent aluminum as something extraordinary approached from the depths. The Nereidan emissary was beautiful in a way that defied terrestrial comparison. Its elongated form undulated through the water with fluid grace, bioluminescent patterns flowing across skin that seemed to be part organic tissue, part living crystal. Tentacle-like appendages flowed from what might have been shoulders, each one capable of independent movement and thought. Most striking were its eyes, multifaceted like insects, but with an unmistakable intelligence that seemed to peer directly into Isla's soul. Behind the emissary came 2 others, their forms subtly different but equally mesmerizing. As they entered the flooded airlock, Isla felt the subsonic vibrations of their communication method reverberating through her body. The station's translation AI, hastily programmed with the mathematical language the Nereidans had displayed the previous day, converted their words into synthesized speech. "Greetings, surface dreamers." The lead emissary spoke, its voice a melodic harmony of tones. "I am current keeper Abyss Song. We come from the Deep Council with proposition for your kind." Commander Voss, floating beside Isla in her own suit, activated her comm system. "Welcome to Thalassa Station, current keeper. I am Commander Sarah Voss, speaking for the human expedition. We're honored to meet you." Abyss Song's crystalline form pulsed with patterns of deep blue and violet. "Honor concept is known to us. Your species shows promise for the greater work. We offer exchange, our knowledge rivers for specific gifts from your people." "What kind of knowledge?" Dr. Kim interjected, her excitement evident even through the suit's communication system. The second Nereidan, introduced as Deep Singer Quantum Trill, gestured with flowing tentacles towards something beyond the airlock. "Technologies that will lift your people beyond single-dimension limitations. Healing ways that will extend your life songs by factors of 10. Energy patterns that will make your ships swift as thought itself." Isla felt her pulse quicken. The implications were staggering. And in exchange, Abyss Song's multifaceted eyes seemed to focus entirely on her. "Your young ones. The small singers whose life patterns have not yet crystallized into permanent forms." The silence that followed was deafening. Even through the water and suit barriers, Isla could feel the sudden tension radiating from every human present. "You want our children." Commander Voss's voice was carefully controlled, but Isla caught the dangerous undertone. "Not for harm purpose." The third Nereidan, flow-touched, deep current, interjected quickly. "For transformation gift. To make them more than they could be in single-dimension existence. They would become bridge builders between your kind and ours, explorers of the quantum deeps that stretch between realities." "Absolutely not," Voss replied flatly. "Our children are not trade goods." Abyss Song's bioluminescent patterns shifted to what seemed like disappointment. "Understanding gap exists. We do not speak of ownership transfer. We speak of evolution opportunity. Your young ones would retain connection to birth families while gaining access to dimensions your science has only theorized about." Dr. Martinez spoke up from his position near the airlock controls. "You're talking about biological modification, optimization, corrected quantum trill, adaptation for life in quantum fluid environments. Your species shows rare compatibility for depth realm existence. With proper adjustment patterns, young humans could thrive in realities where matter and energy dance as one." Isla found herself speaking before she could stop herself. "How many children?" The question seemed to surprise everyone, including herself. Voss turned to stare at her through her helmet's faceplate, but Isla couldn't take it back now. 50 young ones would suffice for initial establishment of bridge colonies," Abyss Song replied. "They would be partnered with Nereidan guides, taught the deep swimming ways, shown marvels beyond your current comprehension. And in return," the emissary gestured, and the water around them filled with holographic displays of impossible technologies. Faster-than-light travel systems, medical scanners that could detect and cure diseases at the quantum level, energy sources that tap directly into the fundamental forces of reality. "We need time to consider this," Commander Voss said finally. "Time concept is understood, but decision moment approaches swiftly. The quantum tide windows that allow deep realm travel occur only in specific stellar alignments. Next opportunity comes in 7 of your day cycles." With that, the 3 Nereidans began their graceful exit from the airlock, leaving the humans alone with an impossible choice. The arguments that followed consumed the station for days. In the main conference room, the senior staff gathered in increasingly heated sessions, while throughout Thalassa Station, conversations in hushed tones debated the ethics and implications of the Nereidan proposal. "It's unconscionable," Dr. Kim stated flatly, her dark eyes flashing with anger. "We're talking about experimenting on children, human children. The fact that these aliens dress it up in fancy language about evolution opportunity doesn't change what it is." Chief Engineer Olson nodded his agreement. "My daughter Maya is only 8 years old. I didn't bring her across the stars to hand her over to alien scientists, no matter what they're offering in return." But others weren't so certain. Dr. James Wright, the expedition's physicist, had spent the past 2 days analyzing the technological demonstrations the Nereidans had provided. The implications go beyond anything we've imagined, he argued. We're talking about technologies that could revolutionize human civilization, medical advances that could eliminate disease and extend human lifespan indefinitely, transportation systems that would make interstellar travel as common as walking across a room. At what cost? Shin demanded. You're talking about sacrificing children. I'm talking about giving them opportunities, Wright shot back. The Nereidans aren't proposing to harm them. If anything, they're offering to enhance them, to give them capabilities we can barely comprehend. Isla had remained largely silent during these debates, studying the detailed biological scans the Nereidans had provided. What she saw there challenged everything she thought she knew about the boundaries between species, between dimensions, between possibility and reality. The modifications aren't random, she said quietly, causing the room to fall silent. I've been analyzing the proposed genetic and physiological changes. They're precise, elegant even. The Nereidans aren't trying to turn human children into something alien. They're trying to unlock potentials that might already exist in human DNA. Commander Voss turned to face her. Explain. Isla activated the main display, showing the comparative genetic analyses. Human DNA contains vast stretches of so-called junk sequences, genetic material that doesn't seem to code for any known proteins or biological functions. But when I compare those sequences to the Nereidan genetic templates, she highlighted specific patterns on the screen. There are matches, structures that could, with the right activation triggers, enable biological processes we've never seen in humans. You're saying we already have the capacity for these modifications? Dr. Kim asked, her skepticism evident. I'm saying the potential might be there. Dormant, unexpressed, but present. Isla pulled up another display showing brain scan comparisons. Look at this. Human children show unusual neuroplasticity in certain regions that correspond exactly to areas the Nereidans identify as critical for quantum dimensional perception. It's as if our species was designed to be compatible with their enhancement processes. The room erupted in heated discussion, but Isla found herself thinking about her own daughter Emma, safe back on Earth with her ex-husband. Emma, who had always been unusually perceptive, who sometimes seemed to see patterns and connections that escaped adult notice. What if the Nereidans were offering something truly extraordinary? There's something else, Isla continued, raising her voice above the arguments. The Nereidans mentioned bridge colonies. They're not just talking about modifying our children for their benefit. They're proposing a joining of species, a collaboration to explore realms that neither of us could access alone. And you trust them? Voss asked. Isla considered the question carefully. I trust their science. The biological models they've shown us are incredibly sophisticated, far beyond anything we've achieved. And their ethical frameworks, at least as far as we can understand them, seem to prioritize the well-being of the children involved. But we can't know for certain, Chen pointed out. We're talking about irreversible changes to human beings based on the word of aliens we've known for less than a week. The debate continued, but Isla could see the way opinions were slowly shifting. The promise of the Nereidan technologies was simply too powerful to ignore. Faster-than-light travel would allow humanity to explore and colonize the galaxy in ways they'd never dreamed possible. Medical advances could eliminate suffering and death from disease. Energy technologies could solve climate change and resource scarcity permanently. But the price. As the meeting broke up for the evening, Commander Voss pulled Isla aside. I need to know where you stand on this, Dr. Niven. Your analysis is going to carry significant weight in our final decision. Isla looked out through the observation windows at the alien ocean, where patterns of light continued their endless dance in the depths. I think, she said slowly, that we need to understand more about what the children would actually experience. We need guarantees, safeguards, ways to monitor their well-being. You're not ruling it out. I'm saying that if we're going to consider this, and I think we have to, we need to do it right. The Nereidans have offered to let us observe the process, to see what the modifications actually involve. I think we should take them up on that offer. Voss nodded slowly. I'll arrange another meeting. The announcement that Commander Voss was seeking volunteers for an observational mission to the Nereidan deep cities sent shockwaves through Thalassa Station. Despite the risks, or perhaps because of them, more than half the station's personnel volunteered for the expedition. Isla was among the 12 selected for the journey. As they prepared for descent in specially modified deep-sea exploration suits, she tried to calm her nerves by focusing on the scientific opportunity. They would be the first humans to see an alien civilization in its natural environment. The Nereidan vessels that came to transport them were unlike anything in human engineering. Instead of rigid hulls and mechanical propulsion, they appeared to be grown rather than built, living organisms shaped by biotechnology in a functional spacecraft. As Isla settled into what the Nereidans called a transit cocoon, she felt the organic walls adjust to her body's shape, providing perfect support and protection. Beginning descent to Primary Habitat Complex, announced Deep Singer Quantum Trill through the translation system. Prepare for Wonder Experience. The journey down took them through layers of increasingly alien marine life. Schools of creatures that seemed to be part animal, part machine swept past the vessel in perfect formation. Coral-like structures the size of skyscrapers pulsed with internal light, their growth patterns following mathematical equations that made Isla's head spin. But nothing prepared her for the sight of the deep city itself. New abyssos stretched across the ocean floor like a vast organism of living crystal and biometal. Spires twisted upward in impossible spirals, connected by tubes and walkways that pulsed with flowing light. Gardens of what might have been plants or animals or something entirely else swayed in the deep currents, tended by Nereidans whose forms had been adapted for specific functions. Population estimate exceeds 50 million individuals, Quantum Trill explained as their vessel docked at what appeared to be a port facility. Diverse subspecies optimized for various depth realms and dimensional interfaces. Dr. Martinez, floating in the cocoon next to Isla's, was recording everything with wide-eyed fascination. The bioengineering implications alone, they've solved problems we didn't even know existed. As they disembarked, Isla found herself in an environment that challenged her understanding of biology and physics. The Nereidans had clearly mastered the manipulation of matter at the quantum level, creating structures that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensional phases. Walls became windows, became doorways with a thought from their inhabitants. Tools shaped themselves to their users' needs. Art forms shifted between states of matter, telling stories through transformations of crystal, fluid, and energy. But most remarkable were the children. Current Keeper Abyss Song led them to what could only be described as a nursery, though one unlike anything from human experience. Here, young Nereidans of various developmental stages played and learned together, but among them were others, beings that Isla realized with a start had once been the children of other species. Integration examples from previous partnership arrangements, Abyss Song explained, noticing their attention. Young ones from 7 different biological foundations, all thriving in enhanced forms. The enhanced children were breathtaking. They retained the essential characteristics of their original species, while gaining new capabilities that seemed almost magical. Some could phase between dimensions at will, existing in multiple realities simultaneously. Others had developed sensory abilities that allowed them to perceive quantum fluctuations directly. All of them radiated in contentment and joy that was unmistakable. Do they remember their original families? Dr. Kim asked, her voice thick with emotion. Memory connections remained strong. Flow Touch Deep Current assured her. Enhancement process preserves all core identity patterns while adding new capability layers. They maintain communication with birth families through quantum link technologies. One of the enhanced children, originally from a species of crystalline beings from a distant star system, approached the human visitors with curious interest. When it spoke, its words came not as sound, but as direct, mental communication. Welcome, new swimmers. Do you come to join the deep current families? Dr. Wright knelt down to the child's level, his scientific skepticism warring with obvious fascination. What's it like? Being enhanced, I mean. The child's crystalline form shifted through several colors before responding. It is like being given new eyes that can see colors you never knew existed. Like growing wings when you had only known walking. The small self that I was is still here, it touched what might have been its chest, but now there is so much more. Isla watched the interaction with growing amazement. Whatever the Nereidans were doing, it wasn't causing harm. If anything, these enhanced children seemed healthier, happier, and more capable than their unmodified counterparts. The process itself, she asked Abyss Song, how long does it take? Enhancement sequence requires 1 full cycle of your planet seasons, came the reply. Gradual adaptation allows personality core to adjust to new capabilities without trauma patterns. Throughout process, birth family maintains contact and provides emotional anchor supports. The tour continued for hours, showing them the educational systems where enhanced children learned to navigate multiple dimensions, the recreational facilities where they played games that spanned realities, the research centers where they worked alongside adult Nereidans on projects that could reshape the fundamental nature of existence. By the time they returned to Thalassa Station, Isla's worldview had been fundamentally altered. The Nereidans weren't predators seeking to exploit human children. They were gardeners, cultivating the next stage of evolutionary development for species across the galaxy. But even so, the decision that lay ahead remained agonizing. The emergency council meeting was called for dawn, Mareth's twin suns casting long shadows across the station's main conference room. Commander Voss had received a message from Earth, news that changed everything. The home fleet detected massive energy signatures approaching the outer system. Voss announced without preamble. Unknown vessels, definitely not human origin. ETA to Earth orbit, 6 months. The implications hung heavy in the recycled air. Dr. Wright was the first to voice what everyone was thinking. Potential invasion force? Unclear. But Earth Command is requesting immediate technological assistance. Whatever defenses we can provide. Voss activated the main display, showing fleet disposition charts and tactical analyses. The Nereidan technologies could tip the balance. Isla felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's environmental systems. The alien vessels approaching Earth might be peaceful, but humanity couldn't afford to assume that. And the Nereidans had made it clear. Their offer would expire in 2 days when the quantum tide windows closed. So we're back to the same choice, Dr. Kim said quietly. But now the stakes are higher. Now the stakes are survival, Chung corrected grimly. The debate that followed was unlike any of the previous discussions. Where before the arguments had centered on ethics and philosophy, now they focused on necessity and practicality. 50 children in exchange for technologies that could save the entire human species. There has to be another way, Dr. Olson insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. What other way? Wright demanded. The Nereidans have been clear about their requirements. And we've seen the results. The enhanced children aren't harmed. If anything, they're improved. Isla found herself studying the personnel files displayed on her tablet. Thalassa Station housed 47 families with children in the age range the Nereidans had specified. Most were the offspring of technical specialists, born during the long journey from Earth or in the early months of the colony's establishment. Her own daughter Emma's file was there, transmitted from Earth in the latest data burst. At 10 years old, Emma was exactly the type of candidate the Nereidans preferred, old enough to understand and consent to the process, young enough for the modifications to integrate smoothly. We need volunteers, Isla said suddenly, surprising herself. Not assignments or selections. Volunteers. The room fell silent. Commander Voss raised an eyebrow. You're suggesting we ask the children themselves? The enhanced children we met weren't coerced. They chose their transformation, with their family's support. Isla stood, pacing to the observation window, where the alien sea continued its eternal dance of light. If we're going to do this, we need to do it ethically. Full disclosure, informed consent, complete family participation in the decision. Children can't give informed consent for something like this, Dr. Kim protested. Children make life-altering decisions all the time, Isla countered. Career choices, educational paths, medical treatments. And the Nereidans have agreed to let families maintain contact throughout the process. This isn't abandonment, it's expansion. Over the next 6 hours, they hammered out the framework for what would become known as the Mareth Accords. Every family with eligible children would receive complete briefings on the enhancement process, including direct testimony from the enhanced children they had met in New Abyssos. No child would be selected without their explicit, enthusiastic consent. Families could withdraw their children from the program at any point during the first month, and the Nereidan technologies would begin transfer immediately, not contingent on the completion of the enhancement process. The announcement went out station-wide that evening. Isla watched the faces of parents and children as they absorbed the implications, saw the fear and hope and desperate calculation in their eyes. By morning, 37 families had requested detailed briefings. By the end of the second day, 61 children had volunteered for enhancement. The hardest part was the selection process. Not enough volunteers, too many. The Nereidans needed only 50, but 61 children had stepped forward, understanding the risks and embracing the opportunity to become something more than human. In the end, it came down to compatibility testing. The Nereidans conducted detailed biological and psychological evaluations, selecting the candidates whose genetic and neural patterns showed the highest probability of successful enhancement. Emma Niven's profile placed her in the top 10. Isla stared at her daughter's file for a long time, thumb hovering over the approval key. Emma had volunteered eagerly after the family conference call, her eyes bright with excitement at the prospect of exploring other dimensions. Her father had been less enthusiastic, but he trusted Isla's scientific judgment. "You understand this is irreversible?" Isla asked during their final conversation before the deadline. Emma's 10-year-old face was serious but unafraid on the comm screen. "I understand, Mom, but I also understand that I could help save everyone on Earth. And I could see things nobody's ever seen before. How could I say no to that?" "How indeed." Isla approved Emma's selection and forwarded the files to Commander Voss. The enhancement facility the Nereidans constructed specifically for the human children was a marvel of bioarchitecture, grown from the seabed in a matter of days. Its living walls pulsed with gentle bioluminescence, and its chambers were perfectly adapted for the gradual transformation process. Isla watched from the observation gallery as Emma and the 49 other selected children took their first steps into their new future. They looked so small against the vast organic structures, but their faces showed excitement rather than fear. Beginning Phase 1 Adaptation Sequence, announced Deep Singer Quantum Trill. Initial modifications will focus on respiratory and circulatory system optimization for quantum fluid environments. The process was nothing like the crude genetic modification techniques humans had developed. Instead of painful injections or surgical procedures, the children were immersed in what the Nereidans called evolution pools, chambers filled with a bioactive fluid that interfaced directly with their cellular structures. The modifications happened gradually, naturally, guided by sophisticated nanotechnology that worked with the children's existing biology rather than against it. Emma floated in her adaptation chamber, her eyes closed in what appeared to be peaceful sleep. Monitoring systems showed her vital signs remaining stable as microscopic changes began occurring throughout her body. New neural pathways forming in her brain. Respiratory systems adapting to extract oxygen from exotic matter states. Cellular structures reinforcing to withstand the pressures of multidimensional existence. The emotional anchor connections remained strong. Flow touch, deep current assured the watching parents. Your young ones maintain full personality core integrity while gaining access to expanded consciousness realms. Dr. Martinez, whose son Diego was also undergoing enhancement, pressed his hand against the viewing window. "How long before we can communicate with them?" Communication channels remain open throughout process. Enhanced children can interact with birth families at any time through quantum link interfaces. As if summoned by his words, Emma's eyes opened. But instead of her familiar brown irises, they now held swirling patterns of deep blue and silver that seemed to contain infinite depth. When she spoke, her voice carried new harmonic undertones that resonated through the observation chamber. "Mom, I can see you, but I can also see so much more." Emma's enhanced vision appeared to be perceiving multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. "There are colors here that don't have names, and I can feel the quantum currents flowing between realities." Isla pressed her hand against the window, tears streaming down her face. "How do you feel, sweetheart?" "Amazing. Like I've been living in a tiny room my whole life, and someone just opened the door to a vast palace." Emma's form flickered slightly, becoming translucent for a moment before solidifying again. I'm still me, Mom, but I'm also becoming something more. Over the following weeks, Isla watched her daughter transform in ways that challenged every assumption about the limits of human potential. Emma learned to phase between dimensions, to perceive quantum fields directly, to communicate through methods that transcended conventional language. But she remained fundamentally recognizable, still curious, still compassionate, still unmistakably Emma. The other children showed similar development patterns. Diego Martinez became capable of manipulating matter at the molecular level, reshaping crystalline structures with thought alone. Sarah Chun developed the ability to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously, effectively becoming her own twin sister. Young Marcus Wright learned to navigate the fundamental forces of reality as easily as walking through water. But it was the collective achievements that truly amazed their observers. Working together, the enhanced children began constructing what they called bridge stations, structures that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions, serving as gateways between realities. These stations would allow travel between distant points in space-time, making interstellar exploration as simple as stepping through a doorway. They're building the infrastructure for a new kind of civilization, Dr. Wright observed, watching his son collaborate with Narration engineers on a project that spanned four-dimensional layers. One that isn't limited by the boundaries that have always confined us. The technological transfers were proceeding as promised. Human engineers worked alongside Narration specialists to understand and adapt the advanced systems for human use. Medical techniques that could regenerate damaged organs and extend human lifespan indefinitely. Energy technologies that tapped directly into quantum vacuum fluctuations. Transportation systems that could move ships across galactic distances in minutes rather than centuries. But for Isla, the most remarkable development was the emergence of something unprecedented in human history, a truly integrated multi-species society. The enhanced children serve as natural ambassadors between human and Narration cultures, translating not just languages, but entire ways of thinking and being. Emma, during one of their regular communication sessions, tried to explain the profound shifts in her consciousness. It's not that I've stopped being human, Mom. It's that I've started becoming something that includes humanity, but isn't limited by it. I can still think and feel the way I used to, but I can also think and feel in ways that were impossible before. Are you happy? Isla asked, the question that had haunted her since approving Emma's enhancement. Happy seems like such a small word for what I am now, Emma replied, her multidimensional eyes sparkling with joy. I'm complete in a way I never was before, and I'm helping to build something amazing. The bridge stations were indeed amazing. As they came online, they revealed vistas of reality that no unenhanced human could have imagined. Distant galaxies became accessible through quantum tunnels. Parallel dimensions where the laws of physics operated differently opened to exploration. The enhanced children, working with their Narration partners, began mapping an infinite cosmos of possibility. 3 months into the enhancement process, Isla made a discovery that changed everything she thought she knew about the Narration's true purpose. It happened by accident. A routine analysis of quantum field fluctuations around the bridge stations revealed patterns that shouldn't have existed. These energy signatures, she told Dr. Wright during their late-night shift in the analysis lab, they're not random. They're responding to something. Wright leaned over her shoulder to examine the data. Responding to what? That's the question. Isla highlighted specific wavelength patterns on her screen. Whatever it is, it's vast, and it's been dormant until now. The answer came from an unexpected source. Emma, during one of her deeper meditative states, began receiving what she described as echo songs from across the quantum depths. Working with her Narration partners, she translated these signals into something human consciousness could comprehend. Mom, you need to see this. Emma's voice carried new urgency during their communication session. We've made contact with something incredible. The main display in the analysis lab activated, showing visual representations of the signals Emma had intercepted. What Isla saw there challenged her understanding of life itself. Vast intelligences moving through quantum space, being so large and diffuse that galaxies were mere cells in their cosmic bodies. The ancient swimmers, Current Keeper Abyss Song explained when summoned to provide context. Entities that exist across multiple universal frameworks simultaneously. For eons, they have been calling through the quantum deeps, seeking species capable of joining their eternal migration through the macro dimensions. Migration to where? Dr. Wright asked. To new universal birth events. When realities collapse and reform, the ancient swimmers guide promising species complexes to fresh cosmos where evolution can continue in expanded forms. The implications were staggering. The Nereidans weren't just enhancing human children for exploration or colonization. They were preparing them to join a cosmic exodus that would preserve life itself against the eventual heat death of the universe. How many species have been enhanced? Isla asked. Across 17 galaxy clusters, over 10,000 species have achieved bridge swimmer status. Your humans show exceptional promise for adaptation to macro-dimensional existence. Isla felt the weight of vast purpose settling over her. The choice they had made wasn't just about gaining advanced technology or protecting Earth from potential threats. It was about ensuring the continuation of human consciousness on a scale beyond imagination. But there was a catch. There always was. The transition window approaches rapidly. Abyss Song continued. Universal degradation patterns indicate this cosmos has fewer than 2,000 years remaining before critical stability failure. All bridge swimmer species must complete their enhancement programs and join the ancient swimmer migration before dimensional barriers begin final collapse. 2,000 years seemed like a long time, but Isla understood the implications. The enhanced children weren't just individuals gaining new abilities. They were the seeds of humanity's cosmic future. But that future required leaving the old universe behind. What about the unenhanced populations? Dr. Martinez asked the question that haunted them all. Abyss Song's bioluminescent patterns shifted to what Isla had learned to recognize as sadness. Transition to macro-dimensional existence requires enhancement capabilities. Those who remain in single-dimension forms cannot survive the passage between cosmic frameworks. The choice was becoming clearer and more terrible: evolve or perish on a universal scale. Not everyone accepted the cosmic revelation with equanimity. When news of the ancient swimmers and the universal migration spread through Thalassa Station, it triggered the most serious crisis since humanity's arrival on Mareth. Dr. Kim emerged as the leader of what became known as the Preservation Coalition, a group dedicated to maintaining human biological and cultural integrity against what they saw as Nereidan manipulation. They're asking us to abandon our essential humanity, Kim argued during a heated station assembly, to become something alien in service to entities we don't understand. This isn't evolution, it's extinction with extra steps. Her words resonated with nearly half the station's population. Parents who had initially supported the enhancement program began expressing doubts. The fear that their children were being stolen from them, transformed into beings they could no longer truly understand or relate to, grew stronger with each passing day. The situation became more complex when the enhanced children themselves began weighing in on the debate. Emma, speaking for her enhanced peers during a station-wide broadcast, tried to address the concerns. "I understand your fears," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the station's communication systems resonate in new ways. "But I'm still your daughter, still your children. The core of who we are hasn't changed. It's just been expanded. And what we're building isn't just for us. It's for all of humanity, all the species that might otherwise be lost when this universe ends." But her words, intended to comfort, only highlighted how much the enhanced children had already changed. They spoke of concepts that unenhanced humans struggled to comprehend, saw patterns and possibilities that existed beyond normal perception. The gap between enhanced and unenhanced was widening daily. The crisis came to a head when the Preservation Coalition attempted to physically remove several children from the enhancement facility. Led by Dr. Olson, whose daughter Maya was among those undergoing transformation, a group of parents tried to force entry into the Nereidan complex. What they found there challenged their every assumption about what was happening to their children. Maya Olson, her body now capable of existing in multiple dimensional phases simultaneously, tried to explain her situation to her distraught father. "I'm not in prison here, Dad. I can leave any time I want. But why would I? I can see the beauty of 17 different realities. I can help build bridges between worlds. I can ensure that consciousness itself survives the end of everything. You're 10 years old. Olson shouted, tears streaming down his face. You shouldn't have to carry that kind of responsibility. Age becomes meaningless when you can perceive time as a navigable dimension, Maya replied with a wisdom that seemed impossibly ancient in her young voice. I have access to the memories and experiences of beings that have lived for millions of years. But I also remember being your little girl, and I always will be. The confrontation ended without violence, but it left the human community more divided than ever. Some families demanded the immediate return of their children. Others threw their full support behind the enhancement program. Still others found themselves caught between love for their children and fear of what they were becoming. Isla faced her own moment of crisis when Emma asked to be transferred to a deep space enhancement facility where she could undergo the final phases of transformation into a full bridge swimmer. It means I won't be able to return to standard reality anymore, Emma explained during their last face-to-face conversation. My consciousness will be too expanded to compress back into single-dimensional existence. But Mom, I'll be able to explore regions of space-time where new universes are being born. I'll be part of the cosmic gardening project that spreads life across infinite realities. Isla stared at her daughter, still recognizably Emma, despite the swirling quantum patterns in her eyes and the way light seemed to bend around her transformed body. Will I ever see you again? You could join us, Emma said softly. The enhancement process works on adults too, though it's more challenging. Many parents have chosen to undergo transformation to stay with their children. The possibility had been there all along, Isla realized. She could follow Emma into transcendence, leaving behind her limited human form for something capable of surviving the end of the universe itself. But it would mean leaving everything else behind: her work, her identity, her unenhanced connections to humanity. I need time to think, Isla said. Time is what we have least of, Emma replied. The quantum tide windows are closing. If you're going to choose enhancement, it has to be soon. The final council meeting took place under emergency conditions. The alien vessels approaching Earth had accelerated their timeline, and Earth Command was demanding immediate technological assistance. Meanwhile, the Narration enhancement program was reaching its critical phase, and the ancient swimmers were calling for all bridge swimmer candidates to begin their cosmic transition. Commander Voss stood before the assembled station personnel, her face showing the strain of impossible choices. We have 3 options, she began without preamble. We can halt the enhancement program and focus entirely on providing Earth with conventional weapons technology. We can proceed with the program as planned, accepting that enhanced humans will eventually leave our reality entirely. Or, she paused, letting the weight of the moment settle over the room. We can choose to transform our entire species. The Nereidans have offered to enhance every human being on Mareth, and potentially those on Earth as well. It would be the most radical decision in human history, but it would ensure our survival beyond the end of this universe. The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Kim was the first to speak, her voice thick with emotion. You're talking about the extinction of baseline humanity. I'm talking about the evolution of humanity into something that can survive eternity itself, Voss replied. The enhanced children we've seen aren't less human. They're more than human. The debate that followed consumed hours. Arguments about identity, survival, ethics, and cosmic responsibility flew across the conference room. But gradually, a consensus began to emerge, not unanimous, but decisive. Dr. Wright, studying the latest analyses of the ancient swimmer communications, provided the scientific perspective. The data is clear. This universe is heading toward inevitable collapse, whether in 2,000 years or 2 million. Enhanced humans have a chance at survival. Unenhanced humans do not. Dr. Martinez, whose son Diego had thrived in his enhanced form, offered the parental viewpoint. Our children are happy. They're healthy. They're building something amazing. And they're still our children. If we have the chance to join them in that future, shouldn't we take it? But it was Isla who provided the deciding argument. Standing before the assembly, she shared the results of her months of research into the enhancement process. I've analyzed every aspect of the transformation, she said. Genetically, psychologically, spiritually. The enhanced humans retain everything that makes them who they are while gaining capabilities we can barely comprehend. They're not losing their humanity. They're expanding it beyond our current limitations. She paused, thinking of Emma's excited voice describing the wonders she could now perceive. And I've made my decision. I'm going to undergo enhancement. I want to see what my daughter sees, to explore the realities she's helping to build. And I believe that humanity's future lies not in clinging to our current form, but in embracing what we can become. The vote that followed was closer than expected, but decisive. 127 in favor of species-wide enhancement, 93 opposed. It wasn't unanimous, but it was enough. Within hours, the Nereidans began constructing enhancement facilities capable of processing the entire human population of Mareth. The process would take months, but by its end, every human on the planet would be capable of surviving the cosmic transition to come. As for Earth, the choice would ultimately be theirs. The technological packages being transmitted would include complete specifications for the enhancement process. Humanity's home world could choose their own path, evolve or remain as they were until the universe's end. 6 months later, Isla floated in the quantum fluid environment of New Abyssos. Her transformed body is comfortable in the deep waters, as it had once been in Earth's atmosphere. The enhancement process had been everything Emma had promised, and more. A gradual expansion of consciousness that preserved her essential self, while opening vast new realms of perception and capability. She could see Emma now, working with a team of enhanced humans and Nereidans on the construction of a massive bridge station that would serve as humanity's contribution to the cosmic migration fleet. Emma's form flickered between multiple dimensional phases as she coordinated the installation of quantum drives capable of moving entire civilizations between realities. "How does it feel, Mom?" Emma asked, her communication method a complex blend of spoken words, direct mental contact, and harmonic vibrations that conveyed layers of meaning impossible in conventional language. "Like coming home to a place I never knew I'd been missing," Isla replied, marveling at her ability to perceive the quantum foam underlying reality, to see the patterns of energy and probability that shaped existence itself. Around them, the community of enhanced humans continued to grow. Not everyone from Thalassa Station had chosen transformation. About 30% had opted to remain in their original forms, accepting the technological gifts but declining personal enhancement. They would live out their lives on Mareth, contributing to a caretaker civilization that would maintain the planet until the cosmic migration was complete. The news from Earth had been mixed. The approaching alien vessels had turned out to be refugees from a dying stellar system, seeking new homes rather than conquest. The crisis had passed, but the questions raised by the Nereidan revelations continued to divide humanity's homeworld. Some nations had begun enhancement programs, while others had banned the technology entirely. The species was diverging, creating multiple paths toward the future. But here on Mareth, in the deep quantum cities, something unprecedented was taking shape. The enhanced humans weren't just joining the Nereidan civilization. They were helping to create something new. A hybrid society that combined human creativity and adaptability with Nereidan wisdom and technological sophistication. The children who had undergone enhancement first had become the leaders of this new civilization. Emma, at the age of 11, commanded respect from beings thousands of years old due to her unique perspective and innovative approaches to multidimensional engineering. Diego Martinez had become a master of quantum biology, developing new life forms capable of thriving in the spaces between realities. Sarah Chun explored the philosophical implications of existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously, contributing to debates about consciousness and identity that span galaxies. "The ancient swimmers are calling," current keeper Abyss Song announced during one of their regular council meetings. "The migration window approaches. All bridge swimmer species must prepare for departure within one stellar cycle." Isla felt a mixture of excitement and sadness at the announcement. Excitement for the cosmic journey ahead, sadness for what they would be leaving behind. Mareth had become a second home for humanity, and Earth remained the cradle of their species. Both would be abandoned when the migration began. What happens to the worlds we leave behind? Asked Dr. Martinez, now enhanced but still recognizably himself. They continue their natural cycles until universe end, Abyss Song replied. Some species choose to remain behind, living out their existence in familiar forms. It is a valid choice, though one that leads eventually to extinction. The cosmic perspective that came with enhancement made such choices easier to accept. Isla could perceive the vast scales of time and space involved, could see how the death of individual worlds and even entire galaxies was part of a natural cycle that stretched across multiple universes. But she could also see how consciousness itself, the ability to perceive, to love, to create meaning, could transcend even universal death if given the right opportunities. Emma's latest project embodied this transcendent vision. Working with teams of enhanced beings from dozens of species, she was designing what they called memory seeds, crystalline structures that would carry the complete cultural and genetic heritage of their home worlds into the new cosmos. Every story, every song, every scientific discovery, every moment of love and beauty would be preserved and carried forward. We're not abandoning our past, Emma explained to the assembled council. We're ensuring its survival beyond anything we previously thought possible. The humans of the new universe will remember Earth, will carry forward the best of what we were while building something even better. 2 years after the first enhancement began, the migration fleet assembled in the deep space beyond Mareth's orbital plane. Hundreds of massive structures, each one a hybrid of technology and living biology, prepared for the journey between cosmic frameworks. The ancient swimmers themselves had arrived, vast intelligences spanning light years, their consciousness distributed across quantum fields that permeated reality itself. Isla stood on the observation deck of the flagship Quantum Gardens, watching as the last of the bridge stations locked into formation. Emma was beside her, no longer recognizable as the 10-year-old girl who had volunteered for enhancement, but still unmistakably herself in the ways that mattered most. Any regrets? Emma asked, her consciousness now capable of processing the experiences of millions of beings simultaneously while maintaining perfect focus on their conversation. Isla considered the question carefully. She thought of Earth, where heated debates still raged about the enhancement technology. She thought of the unenhanced humans on Mareth, who had chosen to remain behind. She thought of all the possibilities that were being abandoned in favor of the cosmic journey ahead. None, she said finally. We're taking the best of humanity with us, and we're giving it a chance to grow into something wonderful. The migration began without fanfare, a gradual acceleration through dimensions that existed orthogonal to normal space-time. As they departed, Isla watched their home universe shrink and fade, becoming just one more point of light in a vast cosmic web that stretched across infinite realities. Ahead lay the new universe, young and full of potential, where enhanced humans would join with countless other species to seed life and consciousness across virgin galaxies. The children who had chosen transformation would become the gardeners of entire cosmoses, ensuring that beauty and intelligence and love continued to flourish even as old realities died and new ones were born. Emma's hand found hers as they traveled between worlds, between universes, between the ending of one cosmic story and the beginning of another. Thank you, Emma said simply. For what? For choosing to grow instead of staying the same. For trusting me when I couldn't explain what I was becoming. For joining me in this journey. Isla squeezed her daughter's hand, marveling at how much they had both changed while remaining essentially themselves. Thank you for showing me what was possible. Around them, the quantum gardens bloomed with new forms of life, hybrids of biology and technology that would carry consciousness forward into realms of possibility that even the enhanced humans could barely imagine. The future stretched ahead, infinite and bright with promise. Humanity had chosen transcendence over safety, growth over stagnation, cosmic citizenship over planetary isolation. It was, Isla thought, the most human choice they could have made. The stars of the new universe beckoned, and they answered with joy.